Okay. So my first question to you guys, you don't have to raise your hand to answer necessarily, but I would nevertheless like you to think about it. सबके हाथ में कागज पेंसिल या कोई डिजिटल फॉर्मेट नोट्स लेने का हमेशा तैयार होना चाहिए। मेरी स्लाइड्स काफ़ी बेकार होती हैं, वो मैं ज़रूर आपके साथ शेयर करूँगी, लेकिन उनसे आपका कोई फ़ायदा नहीं होगा अगर आप क्लास टाइम में नोट्स नहीं लेंगे। So I will also add that to the syllabus when I share it with you, but lecture notes are everything. Readings hongi, slides hongi, or materials honge, but most things that I really want you to know and understand are going to happen in lecture in an informal way. So your notes are super important. All right. So my first question, and anybody can answer this. What is the name of this course? Raise your hand. Mariam.
South Asian history.
Thank you, Mariam. Okay. My next question for anybody else, is why is this a required course for you? Any ideas? More than one person can attempt this question. Anas Khan.
So that when we have to choose our majors later down the line, we are more acquainted with history as one of the possible majors we can take and what we'll be studying in that major.
Okay, good. So Anas says one of the reasons is because in SSLA, history is one of the options for a subject in which to major. And hence, having some required history courses early on helps you to decide whether you want to do history or not. That's a good answer, but it's only one of several possibilities. Muhammad Ali.
I think South Asian history is a relevant course for SSLA students, for students who actually belong from South Asia. So I think it only makes sense that we study South Asian history.
Okay, so Muhammad Ali says that it's relevant to us because of who we are and where we are. And that is very true also. Anyone else? Azan?
Uh, Basically, for me, it's a requirement to graduate. I have to pick an SS selective. Um, However,
Yeah,
South Asian
that's
history
true.
seemed interesting to me uh, to understand how people react today and their sentiments towards certain ethnicities or people of certain backgrounds. We have to understand what their history have been, because that's the way the generations have conditioned people into believing certain beliefs or um, certain prejudices. So that's why it's.
That's a really good answer, Azan. Let's keep it in mind. It leads to another question, though, but I'll ask it later. Nabiha?
I think for me, it's more so about learning where we come from, what our origin is, what our past story is, learning more towards that, I feel.
Where we come from, what our past is, what our origin stories are. And that ties in with what Azan said. Also, learning about the other so called others that we live with nearby, about whom we might have misperceptions or inadequate information. Sana.
Hi, Miss. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that South Asia is like a growing region, and I think it's important for us to know about it because it can sort of open like a lot of career opportunities for us in terms of world affairs. And I also feel as if it sort of teaches us critical thinking, it teaches us about primary and secondary sources, teaches us about how to read smartly. There are a lot of things, even within the content, like a lot of skills that we can apply to other subjects.
Okay, that's true. So any history course will teach you all those things. Um, I'd like to think and can make a pretty good argument for saying that history is actually the mother discipline. आप जो भी पढ़ रहे होते हैं सबसे पहले आप उस चीज़ की history पढ़ते हैं. उसके बगैर you cannot build on knowledge. So
Yes,
in a
exactly.
sense we're using historical methods all the time. जब आप बीमार होते हैं डॉक्टर के पास जाते हैं सबसे पहले वो आपकी मेडिकल हिस्ट्री लेते हैं. मेथड वही है. ठीक है, आप
Yes.
अगर किसी कंपनी की फोरेंसिक अकाउंटिंग कर रहे होंगे आप सबसे पहले बेसिकली उसकी एक फाइनेंशियल हिस्ट्री बनाएंगे एंड द मेथड अगेन इज द सेम. सारा.
So in SSLA, we talk about culture quite often. So just to understand what culture is now, we have to look back to what culture was then and how it was influenced to become what it is now, and how we can influence it for what it will be later on.
Thank you. That's another very pertinent answer. Uh, yes, in SSLA, you are taught to think a lot about this thing called culture, which is entirely man made and a product of processes that took place over years and years. And without history, you cannot hope to understand culture. I'm going to just take one or two people more and then move on. Osama.
Hello. So for me, history gives the perspective for the future. So might have heard that history repeats itself, though that's not the case if we look at the past history of the world. It's a linear line going rightwards if we take left as the past. So it through history we can predict in a way that how a nation or how people of a certain region will react to something. So being a business student, if I'm going for psychoanalysis or of a particular target group, I would need to know how they have developed over the years and what can be predicted regarding the demographical changes or psychographical changes of that particular target group if through history. So yeah, that's why.
Okay, thank you. I'm actually going to respond to that. You said two things. One, uh, very pertinent, and one, which is a very common, right? It's not you. Uh, I was the same. Many of the people who are sharing this class with you will be the same. A common misperception that history is linear. History is not linear. History is neither cyclical nor linear. It is because when we think about history as linear, we think that things are inevitable. कि अगर ये हुआ तो फिर जरूरी था कि वो होना था और फिर जरूरी था कि ये हो. And it's that way of thinking is very much a product of the global culture in which we live in today. It's very much a product of modernity, colonialism, and neoliberalism. कहने का मतलब ये that the idea that history is linear is the idea behind the attitude that all of human society is on the same road to progress. सबने डेमोक्रेटिक बनना है और सबने बहुत अच्छी कैपिटलिस्ट इकोनॉमी चलानी है और सबने अपने एजुकेशन लेवल्स और पब्लिक हेल्थ लेवल्स बढ़ाने हैं, so on and so forth, right? There are certain modern measures of doing well, right, of prosperity. And these modern measures, really what they are saying or implying is that the West has got it right and they are ahead on this linear single road towards progress and development, और हम बाकी सब जो हैं हम जरा पीछे हैं और हमें catch up करना है, right? We're very familiar with this, even if we don't think about it consciously. This is really the value system that permeates the global culture around us. So one of the very important things that history courses in SSLA will try to address is to to make you really conscious of the fact that a lot of what you believe about the world and culture and history is a man-made product of Western colonialism, right? It's not the absolute truth. It's not self-evident logic. It's a product of Western colonialism when Western capitalism started and wanted to control the rest of the world, which they still do economically, if not politically, right? That's a complex thought. We'll be coming back to it throughout in the course, but I did, since Osama brought it up, I did need to address it. He did also say that history teaches us lessons. Yes, it does. Not in a straightforward way, but it teaches us lessons in that when history is written and rewritten and revised, we tend to leave things out that are inconvenient in any given present moment. For instance, today you and I live in post-independence, post-colonial Pakistan, a nation state built on the famous two-nation theory, right? Which the logic of which is that the Indian subcontinent or South Asia had two big communities, the Hindus and the Muslims, divided by religion, and they evolved and developed and grew on two separate tracks. And so in 1947, when the British were leaving, it was time to give these two nations two separate countries. ठीक है ना, ये भी आपके लिए एक मतलब familiar कहानी और familiar logic है. However, if we go back into history and we ignore, we dig deeper than the limited stories that your Pakistan studies textbooks want to tell you when you're younger, we find maybe that there are actually more instances and more evidence of Hindus and Muslims and Jains and Buddhists and Shias and Sunnis and various different kinds of people in the subcontinent living quite harmoniously together. But that's an inconvenient history. When it comes to I saw the chat pop up. When it comes to soft power and it comes to the uses of history by those in power, inconvenient things get suppressed and left out. So in the academic study of history, which is what we hope to do here, and the critical analytical approach to history, we will want to look at and get familiar with the inconvenient and uncomfortable parts of our history. Okay, I'm sorry, Mohammed Siddiq and Ayaz. I'm going to move on to a new question because I think we've hashed that one out very well. But please feel free to address whatever I throw at you next. My next question is, what is South Asia? What is South Asia? Why is this course called South Asian History? Okay, I'm getting the same hands, which I don't want. I will give you guys a chance, Azan and Usama, if somebody else doesn't. Okay, Ayaz. May I call you Ayaz, or do you prefer being called something else?
It's right. Ayaz is fine.
Okay.
If we talk about South Asia, it will be specifically there are few countries: India, Pakistan, Maldives, Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, and I don't know all the names. And especially in academic point of view, we would come to know about the factors, the reasons, especially for the downfall of this sphere in the on the earth, in the subcontinents. And I think, but I would say that it's the crux of all these things depend upon its rich culture of South Asia. That's why I think it will be good to study and to explore more about Asia.
Okay. Mariam Adnan.
Hello, Miss. Hope you're doing well. So, like Ayaz covered, that Southern Asia basically covers all the southern part of Asia, which includes our country, Pakistan, our neighboring countries, including Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, and also some further countries like Nepal. So, I believe that studying about our own region is important because it helps us to understand the context of our own history and what are the elements that have shaped our our society. So this is why this course is so important and introduced in the second semester, so that we can develop a better understanding of our own society and our own region.
Okay, thank you for using that word region. And I've got lots of answers on the chat. Yes, South Asia includes a bunch of countries in Southern Asia that are regionally connected. Which these countries are is not entirely clear. Batul.
Yes, ma'am. I think this course is called South Asian History, and why? Because we've already studied Pak history. So I feel like Mariam said, we need a deeper understanding of the region around our country, like India, Bangladesh, all these other South Asian countries, because we're very deeply related to these countries, these other countries as well. So we need a deeper understanding of them as well to, you know, for a better handling of future, I think maybe future relations, international relations.
ठीक है. All right, so here's what we've established. There is a region that's physically in Southern Asia called South Asia that is comprised of a bunch of countries, not just one. And these countries are somehow connected and related to each other. Now, that's where the complex fuzzy bit comes in. How related are they? Why are they related? How different are they? Right? And as you can imagine, there will be some very complicated answers to those questions, but that is our starting point. I'm going to rephrase that question and see if anybody whose hands are up can respond to the rephrased version. हम इस रीजन को साउथ एशिया क्यों कहते हैं, सदर्न एशिया क्यों नहीं कहते, जो जरा ज्यादा जनरल टर्म है. हाउ इज साउथ एशिया डिफरेंट फ्रॉम सदर्न एशिया? Osama, would you like to take a crack at that?
So, I like to respond to the first one and then come to the second rephrase part. So, anything that lies below of the Himalayan range, the region which is below the Himalayan range, and is water through the rivers coming from the Himalayan ranges is demarcated geographically as South Asia. Now, why not Southern Asia? So, if we talk about Southern Asia, that widens the whole geographical location, the geographical region, because if we look at the map, then we should also include Yemen and Oman and Persian, Iranian countries and other countries in this region too. So in order to, like, in my point of view, and I guess I've read it somewhere, to limit that scope of investigation, I guess, of history, that's why it's called South Asia. So if we look at this region, why is it called South Asia? Is because every region have similarity in it, but yet they are unique in their own terms. So a Hindu
So
living
you had actually already answered your question beautifully. So the difference is Southern Asia is a more general, open-ended term, versus South Asia, which is almost a proper name, right? So it's the difference between saying IBA, the Institute of Business Administration, Karachi, which is a very specific place, versus a business school in Pakistan. So Southern Asia is the more general, open-ended way we might talk about it, and South Asia is like a proper name. So South Asia is definitely in Southern Asia, but there's a reason that it has a proper name, like a person's name or an institution's name. South Asia is a specific place, and that specific place was really nicely defined by Osama as the regions covered by the rivers having their origins in the Himalayas. I like that. But and that can lead us to closer, more accurate definitions of what this place is. There are two hands up, Batul and Nabiha. If either of you have something to contribute to the question of what is South Asia specifically, then please do. Otherwise, I will move on. What is South Asia specifically? Ji,
I I feel like South Asia, while Southern Asia is more of like a geographical area. South Asia could be more of a like cultural area. Like because we share cultures. Like South Asia, may usually the countries we think of when we say South Asia are Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, and the thing we share are our cultures. So I think South Asia is more of a cultural term and Southern Asia is more of a geographical term.
it's true. However, South Asia is very, very geographical. And I should warn you now that we're going to be doing a fair amount of geography and map making in this class. Geography is really important to what makes South Asia South Asia. But Batul, you are absolutely right that within that geographical definition, the further social, cultural, and historical connections also matter a lot in defining what is South Asia. Sarin. I can't hear you, beta. Awaaz kat
To say that I think South Asia would also contain. Hello, can you hear me?
Better now. Yes, start again.
Yeah, I was saying in countries, South Asia, we would also include Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, and these kind of countries, which we do not, which are Southeast Asia, which are included in Southeast Asia.
That's right. Okay. So Southern Asia is everything that is in the south bits of the continent of Asia, and that includes a lot more than South Asia. ये दो terms हैं दो मुख्तलिफ regions के लिए जो लोग हर वक्त गलत इस्तेमाल करते हैं. South Asia is this Indo-Pak subcontinent and the smaller countries that are around it. Southeast Asia is Malaysia, Indonesia, Indochina. Indochina includes Vietnam and Cambodia and these smaller countries, everything that is southeast of China. So South Asia and Southeast Asia are two different places as in terms of regional definition. So as of today, even by mistake, I do not want to ever hear or see anybody saying or writing Southeast Asia when we are talking about South Asia. Okay, let's have a look at it. And I will continue to ask you questions. Give me a sec. There we are. Now, this place has had many names, which I'll come back to, but let's look at it first. This is an actual satellite image-based topographical map. Can somebody tell me what a topographical map is? Yes, Osama? Actually, wait, Osama, sorry, there was somebody else. Yeah, Ramin.
I'm not sure myself, but is it a map that kind of gives an idea about the geographical, like, kind of landscape of the region, like the terrain?
Yeah, sure. What do you mean by
quality of
landscape? What is this map showing you?
as in like the topography, right? Like the way the land is, the type of land there is, and the basically it's more geographical than like a normal map because it allows us to have kind of a view of the quality. I don't know the word,
Okay,
but
okay. What's a normal map?
one that only focuses on the region without focusing on the geography, if I'm not wrong.
What does it focus on? What do you mean by a normal map? What's in your mind?
One that is like that only shows us the region in the country, because in this one I can see like geographical elements, like there's greenery
Countries.
around the
I
north.
think that's what you're
Yes.
trying to get at. Maps that show
Yes.
you countries. Okay, let's find some names of people who have not spoken yet. Kanwal.
Assalamualaikum, miss. A topographical map basically has like the physical features of a land, like how it's spread out. I guess that is sort
Physical
of
features क्या
built
होती हैं
towards
बेटा?
like land ki type, I guess, if it is a marshy area or if it's a sandy area.
Okay, all right. Let's give other people a chance. Maria Rahman.
So I think that this map shows the basic shape and the size of the area as compared to a regular map where we see the directions.
Directions?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Oh, what do you mean by directions? Go ahead and
No,
say
I
it.
mean that the like regular maps that we use every day, they give us directions to a certain place where we want to reach. But this map shows us the general shape of South Asia.
Okay, Ariba.
Ma'am, topographical map like shows the shape of the earth in the regions which we are focusing on, like its particular features. If we like have to say that it might focus on that rivers or hills or mountains and even the man-made things on the particular region.
Thank you. Physical features, rivers, mountains, plains, deserts, forests. Those are physical features. When we live in cities too much, we forget that actually that's what the earth is made of. All right. Thank you. I'm so sorry to those I couldn't get to, but this is such a large class that will always happen. All right. By the way, guys, just help me out. What can you, as anybody, what can you see on the screen? I hope you can see only the map, or can you also see the participant list that I have open? Because I don't want you to see that.
We can't see
No,
that.
ma'am.
It's
Okay,
just
Only the
good.
map.
Otherwise, good. Otherwise, it would be
We
in the
can't
way.
see it.
Take it. All right. Now, what kind of map is this?
Map of South Asia.
Yes.
It's
Is
not
there?
topographic.
It has some. It
Transportation.
has some geographic features.
Is
Emma.
it telling about the roads and the
Yeah, I think it's
rail,
kind of
rail
blurred.
That's cool.
transportation?
Yes.
Okay, now it's better.
Emma, is your name really Emma? Is
No,
it
it's
short for
Mema.
something? Ji beta?
Yeah, it's short for Mema.
Okay. And you would like to be called Emma?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, Emma, sorry, I interrupted. What do you see?
It doesn't look like a topographic map to me.
No, it's not. So what do you see?
I just see a lot of lines, boundaries, names,
Let me see if I can
different colors.
zoom in. Usually I can. Oops, no. What do you think the different, yeah, so colors are used a lot in maps. Any idea, Sarah, what colors might be for? What do you see on this map?
I think maybe for the provinces and yeah, and then there could be railway routes or roads or something like that.
अच्छा, इस पे काफी बड़ा बड़ा एक टाइटल लिखा हुआ है. क्या लिखा है? आजान.
Hindustan or British India.
Hindustan.
हाँ, तो इसका क्या मतलब हुआ?
Akhand Bharat, ma'am.
I think this is subcontinent.
अच्छा जी,
Is
सब
it a
कॉन्टिनेंट
political map?
देखो
Maybe.
बहुत सी चीजें हैं ना इसमें. So
Yeah,
primarily, look at the way it's cut off. What are those?
Is
What
it
is that deeper red line? Sorry, Mahanur,
the border?
the border.
But I think
The
it
mountain
gives.
range.
Yes, Usama.
Uh,
Mahanur, go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying the same thing. I think it shows the mountain ranges. Like if you look closely, I think uh, it. I can see it says Hindu Kush towards the left side of the map.
अच्छा एक
So
चीज
I'm sure.
बताओ मानूर, मैंने अभी इसको बड़ा किया है. Can you see it larger as well?
Yes, miss. I can.
So yes, here, see here, definitely those are mountain ranges. यहाँ बहुत सी चीजें एक साथ हो रही हैं. कुछ geographical features दिखाए गए हैं, such as the mountains. ये जो है, this red line is very much what is this red line? Muhammad Ali.
I think it's a border. It's a map that used to show what the British influence in India is. Like I can notice that Balochistan and much of KPK is not a part of this map. So I guess it shows the British influence on Indian subcontinent at a particular time. So I think it's a political map.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. But I would say use a much clearer, stronger word than influence. India was a British colony. They ruled it. This is not a zone of British influence. This is what the British held politically, militarily, economically. They owned it. So these are the borders of the state of British India, demarcated in that fuzzy, deep red line. Okay. Aha, one new person. Javeria, what else can you see here?
Hi, Miss. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I think this is a reference map compared to the previous one, which is a topographical map. And then on this, you can see a scale and stuff, and then you can see the clear boundaries, which is indicated by the red line.
What else can you see though? We've identified the red line as a political boundary. We've identified the mountains. और कुछ नजर आ रहा है? कुछ समझ आ रहा है?
And then the different colors, which is also pointed out. And then you can see on the border of the map, there's like different markings.
हाँ, बिल्कुल बहुत faint हैं, but there are different colors.
And then
So,
I think that's coordinates or something.
Can anybody read what this pink area is? ये देखो ये लिखा है. You can guess also.
I think that's Sindh, but I cannot read it.
Yes, it is. It says it's the old English spelling for Sindh, SCINDE. And you'll have the map soon, so you'll be able to see. And look, there's Karachi, again, the old spelling.
Miss, can you share it in the chat?
Yes, I can actually. Hang on. So what do you think these are? Why is Sindh named and demarcated in a color? Sarim, why is Sindh named and demarcated in a color? Oh, can't hear him. Someone who hasn't spoken much, maybe Mariam? Oh, wait, got a new person, Aisha Siddiqui.
Assalamualaikum, ma'am. So I'm not sure, but I'm just guessing. Maybe there were different rajas used to rule different areas in British India. So maybe like this pink area signifies that this area is being ruled by a different raja. I'm not sure. But
Could be. It's a very good guess. Does anybody have another answer? Mariam, maybe?
I was also making the same guess as Aisha. Like maybe it's ruled under a particular prince or a parties or something like that.
I think
Not a party,
it
but prince.
tells us. Sorry to interrupt you. I think
Yes.
it tells that it has been colonized by a certain like certain colonizer like the British or the French or the Portuguese or whatever.
अच्छा देखो, ये बात तो तय हो चुकी है ना कि जो भी उस लाल लकीर के अंदर है वो ब्रिटिश इंडिया है। अब उस लाल लकीर के अंदर जरा मजीद एरियाज जो हैं वो रंगे गए हैं टू शो दैट दे आर डिफरेंट, और उनके ऊपर नाम भी हैं। देखो ये वाला ज्यादा पढ़ा जा रहा है। कैन यू सी दिस वन इन द मिडल? व्हाट डज इट से? BEN,
Bengal.
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 Yeah, and what does it say after that? That, see if you can read it. Yeah.
Presidency.
Presidency, exactly. That was a name that the early British Empire in India gave to its the zones that it divided India into. And these zones were not the same as the old traditional princely states or Rajwadas that
Ma'am, can I speak?
Ji beta?
Can I say something?
Yes.
Are these different areas like are the areas controlled by the EIC?
The EIC, that is the
East
India Company, did first establish the British Empire in India, and because it was a it's so bizarre, it's like one of the craziest things that has ever happened in history. If you can imagine Unilever suddenly conquering and taking over and running Pakistan. Actually, we can imagine it now, but that's what happened. And they did it almost by accident, which we will study in detail. And having done it, then they suddenly had this big problem of needing to become a government and ruling these places. And they did a really bad job of it. So that 100 years into their rule of India, their own government, the British government and the British Crown decided enough was enough. We need to take over directly. This is a little bit later than the EIC, right? So the British government is already very much directly in charge. And what they have done, you see, is create not just zones, but अब ये देखो, ये नजर आ रहा है, ये लंबा सा Bombay Presidency. And सबसे नीचे, all of South India was the MADRAS, Madras Presidency. And
Miss, can I say something?
Ji beta.
Miss, I think it shows the separation of Sindh from Mumbai. I think so. I mean,
yes, over here it does, but not exactly where you might expect it to be. And then
yeah,
there
so
were.
Miss, I'm just making imaginations while
Yeah. It's all right. Good. And nobody expects you to have the knowledge right now, right? I'm just expecting you to be curious and make intelligent speculations, which you guys are doing brilliantly. At some point later, some of you might know कि ये पूरा area भी Bombay Presidency का हिस्सा हो गया था. They used to keep changing so the correct word for the demarcations in color that you are seeing inside the larger political boundary, which is this red stuff, these are administrative boundaries, right? So in order to make management and administration easier and more doable, they divided, and they weren't, I mean, they did not invent that. Large empires and kingdoms were always divided into provinces or states or districts or administrative zones in order to manage them better. And that's all that's happening here. These are the administrative zones created by the British Empire. Why this is interesting to us sitting here today is that those administrative zones created by the British Empire were directly inherited by the post-colonial independent countries of South Asia. We just more or less kept them the way they were and named them provinces. Rahma.
Miss, I have a small question.
there are multiple regions that share the same color in the map.
Yes.
And they're quite far apart from each other.
Bilkul.
So that, in my mind, is sort of paradoxical to the fact that they were sort of demarcating these areas so that they were better able to administrate them. But then they're also so far apart. So does the same sort of group of people take care of these parts that are very far apart from each other?
It's a really good question. You know, like, why are these three zones, this one, and this one, all the same shade of pink? And the answer is probably something really dumb and practical, in that more than three colors couldn't be used in those days in printing technology. So they had to keep repeating the 3 or 4 colors that they could use. Azan and Osama, you still have something to say? No, Azan's gone. Oh, we have a new.
Maybe
Yeah, go ahead.
maybe sometimes too many colors make it difficult to look at a map. It's not visually appealing. So maybe that's the reason they colored it in just 3 colors.
Could be. My own. I don't have an answer, and I shall check on it actually. But my own speculation would be that it had to do with printing technology and what colors could be used. Shahan.
Okay, Miss, I have a question. Which area does it show in this corner? In this
इस तरफ के दूसरी तरफ, east or west? You think you can tell me that?
no, दूसरी तरफ है, जो नीचे है.
ये साउथ में, ये close up में.
So right side में
inside the box,
नीचे
right?
British India जो लिखा है. Yeah, inside the box.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to make it as big as I can. I think maybe not more than that. What can you guys see?
Myanmar.
What is
Indian
that?
Ocean.
Okay.
Indian Ocean.
Yeah.
I can't really read.
I
Too
know.
small.
I know. I can barely read. Usually, when you have a detail like that in a square, there's a smaller square on the map itself that shows you कि ये किस चीज की detail है. वो मुझे नजर नहीं आ रहा. I want to say that it is somewhere.
Excuse me.
जी बोलिए बेटा.
Ma'am, I guess that's the Myanmar region of Southeast Asia, because that was under British influence too, right? So in this separate box, it is showing that.
Yes, it is. That's going to be further east, but it should still have a connection to the map. But yeah, let's not.
Yeah,
There we go. There we go. See, here it is. It's what's being shown from this point on. You see this? Can you see my cursor, guys?
Yes,
Can you?
Yes.
Okay. So this is this. Right? So our big map ends over here, and this is the continuation of British India further east, which we can't see on the big map. That's what it is. And you guys raised a good question. What is there? There are a couple of countries that have this strange kind of gray area personality. One of them is Burma, and the other one is Afghanistan. Are they part of South Asia, or are they not part of South Asia?
They are not.
Why not?
Can I continue?
You may.
Okay. The reason Afghanistan not being influenced by British colonialism is because the north side of Afghanistan was under the influence of Russia, The southern regions were pretty much autonomous, and they had different tribes, and they revolted against the British rule, and they pushed them to the present day Fata region. And Britishers had to make a peace deal with the Shah of, I guess, Shah of Afghanistan. He was called the Shah. I can't remember. So they had to make a proper deal with him that to demarcate that Durand line, which today Pakistan is fencing. And the reason Burma not being part of British rule was because it was influenced more by French, I guess, Portuguese or French. Can't remember which colonial power
Okay.
was there.
Thank you, Osama. You are right on some things and wrong on some. Who would really like to take that question about Afghanistan and Burma? If you don't want to answer that question, please put your hand down. Okay, Javeria.
I'm not exactly sure about the Afghanistan part, but for Burma, I think it's because it's part of the ASEAN, the Southeast Asian nations. So that's why it's not part of South Asia. It's a Southeast Asian country.
You took what are the ASEAN countries?
So originally there were 5, and then after that treaties were signed and stuff, and then now there are currently 10 members. I'm not entirely sure of all 10.
Does anybody know what the acronym stands for?
All Southeast Asian nations.
That's right, the Association of Southeast Asian
Yeah.
Nations. Okay, so what is coming up in this part of our discussion is that what we have inherited today, right? The way that we think about what is South Asia and this region called South Asia that has some geographic origins and it has a common history. But really, the part of the world that is recognized today as South Asia is more or less the part of the world that became the British Indian Empire. So British India was demarcated as India or South Asia. Before British times, Afghanistan had a very close relationship with India or South Asia, and for many centuries used to be part of some continuous empire or kingdom that started very much in what is today South Asia. So if we go to BC or ancient times, Afghanistan, our KP, Kashmir, northern Punjab, these were all the Buddhist Kushana kingdom for hundreds and hundreds of years. When the Mughals came, right? Babur came because he had a foothold in Afghanistan. Kabul and Kandahar were his. That was his capital. And he launched his conquest of Hindustan from there. And Kabul and Kandahar more or less remained part of the Mughal Empire. So Afghanistan has a very interesting history and relationship with the rest of South Asia. And today, look at today, how porous the border is despite the fencing, how close the linguistic, cultural, and indeed familial connections are on both sides of the Durand line between so-called Pakistan and so-called Afghanistan. वहाँ के लोगों को थोड़ी कोई फर्क पड़ता है उनकी हिस्ट्री जो है वो जी बेटा बोलिए
Ma'am, I'm gonna differ you on a point. When you say Kandahar and Kabul being the places from where South Asia was invaded, right? So
only by Babur and only in 1526.
Okay, okay. Not, I'm not like saying that. What I'm trying to say is that if we look at the present day Afghanistan, right? The even today, the north part, the Tajik belt is not has no linkage with the rest of South Asia.
Correct.
Right, and you said that Kandahar and Kabul, so that comes on the Pashtun belt, right?
Bilkul.
So isn't it more correct to
You've
say
pointed out,
that the
yeah,
Pashtun belt?
yes, yes, that is absolutely correct. But historically, the linkages extend further. What you have brought up, though, is a really important point, again, Osama, that I'm trying to get at with this British Indian map, is that modern day, present day modern nation states are relatively recent artificial constructions. We have to proceed on that premise. Historically, you've just defined the nature of the modern state of Afghanistan, right? Historically, it's not really a homogeneous cultural zone. Neither is Pakistan, neither is modern India. They're all problematically jumbled together with arbitrarily drawn lines. Shahan, your hand is still up. Would you like to say something? No. Okay. We'll come back to that. Ji, Batul.
Your question was, why is Afghanistan not considered a part of
No,
South
my
Asia? Is
question
that
was,
what
is it? Is it? What do you think? Should it be South Asia? Should it be something else?
Okay, I thought it was walls. Never mind. Because I was thinking that maybe because it was more under the Soviets' control, while India and Pakistan were under British
यही
control.
ना, तो जो हमारी बहुत recent 19th 20th century की European colonial history है, that is what is defining our current status. And if you think in historical time, that's 5 minutes ago. It's a blink of an eye. Whereas for many, 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 many centuries before that, these areas were connected in very different ways. Does that make sense, Patu? Batul, are you there?
Yes, that makes sense. Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm going to attempt to do something that almost never works, but I'm going to attempt to do it anyway, which is I want you to see, because we're still on geography, I want you to see a short clip from a small video, which I'm going to share in the chat, and I'm going to attempt to play. Oh dear, that's the wrong place. Give me a minute. Okay, so I've sent you a YouTube link, but I'm also going to attempt to play it. It might just play. It doesn't even matter if you can't hear most of it, as long as you can see. This is really going into archaeology, geology, and prehistory of Earth to show you why the Indian subcontinent is actually a thing. Okay, that should work.
You can find our interview with him in a link at the end of this video. Now, let's rewind 550 million years ago when the supercontinent Gondwanaland was formed. At the time, India was part of this supercontinent, as were Africa, Australia, Antarctica, and South America. Fast forward a couple of 100 million years later, and Gondwanaland collided with the Euro-American continent to form an even bigger supercontinent called Pangaea. Gondwanaland later disintegrated, which meant that India broke off and began to move northwards. As the Indian plate moved up, it passed over hotspots in the Earth's interior, which meant that India picked up a lot of speed. Imagine continental plates a bit like icebergs. Most of it isn't visible. Now, imagine a big part of India's iceberg getting separated from the bottom. That happened, which meant the Indian plate got lighter and could pick up even more speed. And pick up speed it did, crossing 9,000 kilometers in 70 million years, all the way from the South Pole to its position in the north today. To put this into perspective, plates usually move about 5 centimeters a year. India moved almost 20 centimeters a year, and it's this unbelievable geological speed that explains the size of the Himalayas. The faster and harder the collision, the greater the impact. At the beginning of this video, we said that geologists liken the Indian subcontinent to a
Okay, were you guys able to see that?
Yes.
Yes? All right.
Mm-hmm.
So, in fact, I'm going to go back to the topographical map now. Cool, huh? You please feel free to watch that and other videos. It's really fun. Okay, actually, this one will do. So, why does he keep calling it India? What is he calling India? Can someone tell me that first?
It's the Indian plate. लेकिन उसके जो borders हैं, it spans from I think काफी उसमें ईरान का हिस्सा भी आता है, अफगानिस्तान, पाकिस्तान का काफी सारा हिस्सा और बांग्लादेशी सारे ममालिक उसमें आते हैं, लेकिन the Indian plate.
Indian plate. अच्छा, बिल्कुल ठीक है. Plate क्या होती है?
A tectonic plate, which is basically काफी सारी plates होती हैं. They are swimming above the magma that is hot magma जिसके ऊपर वो सारी
It's like a piece of the crust of the earth.
You're both doing really well, right? And the only thing that or anybody who's not so interested in geology and geography needs to know is that the plates that make up the Earth's crust are intimately connected to and responsible for the existence of continents and dry land. But they keep moving, right? Where the plates meet is where you get earthquakes and volcanoes and so on. India is actually the name of a large plate that broke off and for, as you saw, more than 70 million years was floating around in the ocean on its own. And then it crashed into the bottom of the large Asian continent, which had already separated from Pangaea and formed. Now, what happened when the Indian plate crashed into the continent of Asia? Anyone?
Himalayas came into existence.
Yes. What is so special about the Himalayas, Umair?
They're one of the highest mountain ranges in the world because the force between these two plates is very high. So, and the impact created a really large mountain range.
Yes, thank you. So you live in a region that is defined primarily by the tallest mountain range in the world. Tallest by far. Go ahead and look up the numbers sometime if you're curious. And it's really long and it has a bunch of sub ranges which were thrown up at the same time, right? They're part of the Himalayas. So, therefore, the northern end of South Asia has a natural geographical border comprising of the Himalayas and the subsidiary mountain ranges of the Himalayas. Now, can somebody tell me what natural feature constitutes the western border of the Indian subcontinent? Sorry, I will pause there for a second. This is why it is called a subcontinent. It was a small continent of its own, floating around, that crashed into Asia and remains geographically defined as separate, somehow separate from the rest of Asia. So in the north, it's very clear, it's in your face, it's the magnificent Himalayas and the Hindu Kush. What's on the western border? What is the western border demarcating the Indian subcontinent? Yes, Mohammed Ali.
When we're talking about the Indian subcontinent, is Afghanistan the part of it?
Indian subcontinent is this plate, okay, that crashed into Asia. So now you really need to stop thinking in terms of modern countries, which we've just established have artificial borders, okay? We have to
Yeah,
start
I
thinking in
understand
terms
that.
of regions. So just tell me, what is the geographic feature? A modern nation state cannot be a geographic feature. What is the so the northern border of the Indian subcontinent is marked by the mountains, by the Himalayas and the sub-ranges of the Himalayas. What is the western border of the Indian subcontinent demarcated by? What physical feature marks the western border of the Indian subcontinent? Somebody else has, hang on, Mohammed Ali, not Batul, somebody, Liman.
Yeah, it's Iman.
Oh,
It's an
okay.
I at the
I was
beginning.
like, what is that? Iman, thank you.
Yeah. So I guess deserts.
Deserts, okay. Could be, at least you picked a geographic feature. Josefa.
Yeah, so I think that there are ranges, but they are not that high as Himalayas or Hindu Kush or other
Okay, Josefa thinks,
so in
go on.
yes, so like Kirthar range and Suleiman range, and also in Afghanistan and Iran, you see these mountains, but they are not really mountains, just hills, you can say.
ठीक है. So we have deserts, we have mountain ranges. Anyone, Momina?
Is it the Karakoram range? And yeah, just like he said.
That's a very tall range that's very much a subsidiary of the Himalayas, and it's in the north.
Okay.
Alina?
Maybe the rivers.
Which one?
Indus River.
Yay, thank you. So the prize goes to Alina. The Indus River, right? One of the mighty river systems of the world, one of the cradles of civilization, right? If you think back to any of your high school history or social studies topics, human civilizations all centered around major river valleys. And as of today, the oldest known evidence actually comes from the Indus River Delta, right, of human settled civilization. So the Indus River, which, this is back to Osama's wonderful definition at the beginning, the Indus River, which has its origins in the Himalayas, right, and the subsidiaries of the Himalayas. The Indus River demarcates the natural western boundary of the Indian subcontinent. What about the southern boundary? What is the natural southern boundary of the Indian subcontinent? Azan.
The natural southern boundary is the coastline. But I also wanted to ask, since you said that Indus River is the western boundary, so does that make NWFP and Afghanistan, sorry, Balochistan not part of the subcontinent?
Yes and no. Yes and no, right? So they are liminal border spaces. You know that the Indus River has shifted around, right, over the centuries also. And the area of influence of a large river valley is really broad and big. Ji Batul.
Ma'am, I want to answer your question about the southern boundary. I think it's the Arabian Sea.
Yes, yes, thank you. That's it's obvious, right? That especially after the little video clip we've just seen, the southern boundary of the Indian subcontinent is the Arabian Sea and the Indian Ocean. It's the water. The hardest one to demarcate is the eastern boundary. Anybody have any ideas what the eastern boundary of the natural Indian subcontinent might be? Josefa?
So in the east, in Bangladesh and at that side, of the India, there are still mountains, but they are, they have forests on them. So I think that this is what demarcates
Okay, so
the
could be
Indian
mountains
from the.
again. Could be mountains again. Osama?
So there are two natural boundaries, and there's a dispute in both of them. Some think the Brahmaputra, the Great Brahmaputra, is the natural eastern boundary of the eastern part of South Asia, and some consider a bit beyond that, and that's the Nagaland area, the Indian state of Nagaland and Naga Hills. Yes, this
Guys, can you see it? I've
Naga
just made it
Hills
bigger.
as yeah, we can see it now. So Naga Hills as the natural boundary of South Asia, and I prefer Naga Hills as the natural boundary because it clearly defines the boundary of India, the present, not only the present day India, but in old India, ancient India, because in the east, if we go more further, then Burma starts, right? And that's where the major cultural shift is seen. So that's why for me it's the Naga Hills, but Brahmaputra is also considered as the eastern.
Thank you, Osama. Kanwal. Kanwal?
Yes, miss. Is it the? Oh wait, it's written right there. The Bay of Bengal.
वो तो ठीक है, वो साउथ में है, but ईस्टर्न बाउंड्री क्या है?
Acha, okay, that was my only answer.
Batul? Oh, your hand is not up.
I don't.
That's okay. So Osama said it. Technically, it is supposed to be right here, this Brahmaputra River, you see. So it comes like this and then down into the Bay of Bengal. If you look up on your own, maybe better maps, and I'll share some sites with you guys. The Brahmaputra is part of the other great river system of North India. ठीक है, west में Indus River system है और central or east North India में it's the, ये देखो, can you see this word? It's the Ganges, and therefore this area, huge area in the middle, is called the Indo-Gangetic Plain. And the Brahmaputra is the easternmost end of the Ganges river system. It's not really so easy to separate from the Naga Hills. It passes through some of them. So more or less this area with these hills and this last large river is thought of as the eastern end of the Indian subcontinent. Now, why is this geography important? I'm going to keep you guys another few minutes, and I don't want any restlessness, please. Why is this geographical history and these geographical features of the Indian subcontinent, why are they important? Josefa, would you like to answer that? Your hand is still up.
Okay.
Yes.
So, in my opinion, it's because that it makes the movement of people much more restricted. Like from the north, because of the Himalayas, the Chinese cannot, or they feel restricted to come to the India, and from the west and from the east. So it was like India was much more isolated than the rest of the world. Only from the south it has some contact, but for the foreigners to come and go, it was very very difficult.
Thank you. Haya. I have two new people, Haya and Ariba. First, Haya. Yes.
Yes, I think it has to do with the historical context, like where the wars happened or what happened in what historical context. So, in order to understand or explain where something happened, we have to know the geographical area from which it happened.
Okay, that's not untrue, but that's like a secondary factor because geography has a big impact on all of this, especially land-based warfare. Ariba.
In my opinion, I guess it is important to know the historical context as well as we came to know about the natural division so that we can also monitor the natural disasters, and so in order to prevent and to accommodate the losses. That's why I guess geography helps us to deal with all these things.
All right. Ifra?
So, miss, firstly, it acts as a natural boundary. Secondly, it will help you understand your topography for any like where you want to build dams or where you want to have your HEP generated from. So for that, and thirdly, it's very important for economical purposes such as trade. So your economical trade, international trade, you need to know about your where is your sea or like all of that, your topography, and how you can help it to like maximize your trading prospects.
Thank you. Very articulately put. Now, who's new? Ruqayya. क्या हुआ? भाग गई?
Yes, Miss, I was about to say like this almost the same thing
Go
which
ahead.
Ifra just said. Like
Maybe you can
to
summarize
yeah,
it in
just
your
to
own words.
like so I think it's like to make a division like what for trade, etc. So to divide the regions, and obviously like these boundaries which we studied are like our natural boundaries. So it also like helps us study the history, and also like we studied about how India divided from Pangaea and at a faster pace. So the Himalayan range, I think
Okay. Emma?
it okay.
I sort of interpreted your question as why is geography important in this course, South Asian history?
Yes.
And I think when we're studying the history of any particular region, we need to first clearly define what that region is.
Correct. And why it's a region. It's not just about a definition can be very clear, but it can also be arbitrary or random, such as the current political borders of Pakistan or Afghanistan or India.
Okay.
Okay, Muhammad Ali.
I think the study of topography or geography is important because as Emma mentioned, it is used to define what a particular region is. And as we can see on the slide, different people have used different names for India. For example, when the Arabic or I think Persian traders, when they came to this region, they called these people Hindu as somebody who is beyond this मतलब सिंधु नदी के उस पार जो मतलब हिंदू इस तरह करके उनका नाम आया और दूसरी बात ये कि these rivers and these valleys are sometimes the cradles of civilizations because
Not
they
sometimes,
irrigate the land
always.
all the time. So yeah, because of that, तो उसकी वजह से history काफी influenced होती है. I mean, और in ये rivers are always important geopolitically because they are irrigation has काफी अभी तक पाकिस्तान एक irrigation economy है, तो they are always important geopolitically and for invaders and colonists alike. So इस वजह से फिर boundaries mark होती हैं, demarcate होती हैं, तो इसलिए बहुत जरूरी है geography पढ़ना.
Thank you, Mariam.
South Asian history के अंदर.
Yeah, so just like Emma and Ali said, without understanding our area and without actually knowing what is the region that we're studying, we will not be able to understand history more vividly. So for this particular course, understanding the geography in the first class will allow us to more to understand history from a wider perspective, because it will allow us to, for example, if we're going to study a particular invasion or a particular war, then we would be able to put that into perspective because we know what is the area, and like how it came into existence naturally. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Sana. Actually, everybody else I've heard from, so I'm going to wind it up after Sana. Sana, what would you like to say?
I'm just going to try to explain my point. I don't know if I'll be able to explain it properly, but you know how you mentioned before that we need to separate ourselves from the modern idea of those countries. And I think that's where geography sort of plays a part. If we don't understand the topography and the geography of a certain place, we might assume the country names or what we know now. So that's where the connection between history and geography sort of comes in, and it creates a distance between us and a country, and then we see it as a region, and then we see it as a mountain range, and then that's how we sort of get to the origin of that place by understanding its geography.
Thank you, Sana. That's actually a fantastic point on which to wrap up today's discussion. What I really want you to take away from today, and many of you already were so knowledgeable, but you can always reflect on it more, is what is the difference between a geographically defined region, and a modern nation state with political boundaries, right? So geographical features and geographical boundaries are really quite different from modern day political boundaries. I'm not going to do this with you right now, but I would encourage you to just like spend half a minute pulling up a modern map of Africa on your browser and look at how the countries are formed. Can anyone, this is the last question, throw out question to you. Can anyone remember right now what the map of Africa looks like? And is there anything weird about it?
Yeah, there are very straight lines काफी ज़्यादा हैं जो कि nature में नहीं मिलती इतनी ज़्यादा.
Some white guy just sat with a ruler and drew lines. And that's not really particularly different from what happened here, although it was slightly more sophisticated. Okay, thank you. That was actually a really fun first class. I always begin with geography. We're actually going to continue doing it, not perhaps in such a focused manner, but you will have a map quiz within the next week or two. I still have to figure out how we're going to do it, and I'll be in touch. And of course, we will start reading from this week onwards. So I will be assigning you something that I expect you to have read for next week. And shortly on Facebook as well as LMS, I'll give you a course outline. I just needed a little time to modify it given the lack of clarity as to how this semester will proceed. So yeah, by the end of today or tomorrow, you will have that. Are there any questions relating to the logistics of the course?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Usama.
Uh, is it going to be online only or physical presence will be required?
I
You
have
had to
no
touch on.
idea. To be completely honest with you, I have no idea. Right now, this was necessary for me. For next week, as you know, we're all living in this ridiculous, hyper anxious world where things change from one day to the next. And I will share with you guys now that I personally live in a home situation where I have several elderly people, so I tend to be extra careful. I would like to see you all, and as I said at the beginning of the class, I'm trying to work out something where we do see each other occasionally, if not always. And there's another very important thing that I do need to tell you. And I'll probably have to do a poll on Facebook. So those who haven't joined should join the group. I tend to hold tutorials for this course because it's very big. And they take the place of office hours. ये नहीं है कि अगर आपको मुझसे अकेले में बात करनी है आप नहीं कर सकते, आप by appointment किसी भी वक्त मुझसे मिल सकते हैं in my office or on Zoom. But instead of just setting aside a couple of hours as office hours in the week, I will be dividing you all into 6 or 7 groups. And on a cyclical basis, I will be meeting those smaller groups in tutorials. So 3 or 4 times in the semester, I will manage to meet with each group. And when to schedule the tutorials, that is something we need to work out, and I will do it via poll on Facebook. Yes, Ifra, you have your hand up.
Miss, will they be on the main campus?
No, I
Just
assume you
curious.
know that if we meet, it's going to be this, and we will, for some occasions, we will meet, particularly quizzes. It's going to be in the JS auditorium on City Campus because that is our assigned space. Batul?
Oh, okay.
Ma'am, if class is not over, can I leave? I have another class.
Of course, of course, of course.
Thank you so much.
You're all welcome to leave. If anybody has remaining questions, you can raise your hand and I'll take them for another few minutes. Laiba? पर जिसको जाना है प्लीज जरूर जाइए.
Hello, Miss. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can now.
Yeah. So, Miss, I just wanted to ask, like, of course, I was like trying, like, I will email you also. So I need to meet you in person. I would like to discuss something about the class and something. So
Yeah. So
like,
Laiba, just email me and we'll set up a meeting. Okay.
yeah, sure. So because I'll write down the whole thing. Why am I going to meet you in person, right?
Yes. Okay. Osama?
Okay.
Ma'am, I have this is my last semester here at IBA, and as you know, we have ELP, and I have 2 other internships slash jobs that I'm going with and managing. So, like giving extra time in the tutorial.
देखो आपको
if
tutorial
possible, ma'am.
let me explain. Maximum 3 tutorials in the whole semester you have to attend. And if you really
Okay,
have a
and the
problem,
time.
if you really have a problem, we will discuss it one-on-one and find some other way around.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Azan?
I know. Thank you.
Ma'am, can you tell a brief intro about how we'll go about this course? And because I have not taken much SS courses on the international relations, PLE, and SEPI, so I don't have an idea about how SS courses go. So can you guide us
Yes,
particularly about
yes.
this
SS,
course? As how should I
they're
started
two really
thinking or
important things.
practicing?
Huh. There are two really important things. One, as I mentioned at the beginning of class today, attending lectures, taking lecture notes. Super important. There's a lot more reading than non-SS students are usually used to. So keep up with it as best as you can. Usually we also discuss it in fair amount of detail. So those are the two things I can tell you right now.